Few people realize it, but every year, the world consumes millions of pounds of turkey. And behind that enormous volume is an industrial chain so precise that even the smallest detail can change the final price. So why does a turkey cost so much more than an ordinary chicken? Well, the truth is, we are not talking about just any bird. This large, heavy turkey with an extremely full breast, sold by major brands and producers across different parts of the world, does not naturally develop this way. It is the result of decades of industrial development. And that raises an unavoidable question. What exactly is the turkey that reaches your table? And how does it deliver so much meat yield? And does the price of turkey have more to do with tradition or with everything that happens before it ever reaches the grocery store? Today, you are going to discover that behind this food served during major celebrations, there is an astonishing level of biological and industrial control. One small deviation at the start of the raising process can create losses measured in tons by the end of production. What is most curious is that even though turkey is so familiar, almost no one knows how it is raised, why it grows with this specific body structure, and which processes allow it to reach the market already seasoned, tender, and ready to go straight into the oven. That is what you're going to discover today, here on Factories and Facts. In this episode, we are going to follow the complete journey of turkey, from the origin of the bird to the moment it leaves the factory packaged, ready to take its place at the center of the table. But before we open the doors to this massive industrial chain, let me ask you something. Have you ever stopped to think about why turkey is so different from the other birds we eat in everyday life? And if you watched the previous episode, where we showed how panettone is made, you may have already noticed that even a rich, iconic bakery product hides a far more complex process than it appears to. Each product follows its own industrial path. Turkey begins long before the factory with bird selection, controlled raising, and the development of the breast. Comparing these worlds shows how such different products depend on enormous industrial processes. So if you want to understand how this bird becomes one of the most important foods on the table, subscribe right now here on Factories and Facts. And take a moment to comment below. In your opinion, do you prefer turkey, regular chicken, or another special kind of poultry? Before any turkey gets anywhere near a factory, everything begins in a stage the consumer never sees: the genetic selection of the bird. Major producers in different parts of the world have spent decades improving specific turkey lines, searching for the right balance between size, white meat yield, and steady growth. The goal is not to create a new species, but to refine desired traits generation after generation until they reach the standard found in grocery stores. The first link in this chain is made up of what are known as breeder birds, responsible for producing the commercial flocks. These animals go through strict evaluations involving body weight, breast shape, feed efficiency, and disease resistance. Only a small portion meets the required standards. It is a slow and strategic process where the industry decides in advance which traits will appear in the final product. From these breeder birds, the eggs move on to large industrial hatcheries. There, nothing is left to chance. Temperature, humidity, and airflow are continuously monitored by automated systems. Machines turn the eggs several times a day to simulate the bird's natural movement and ensure the embryo develops evenly. After a few weeks, the poults finally hatch, all within a carefully calculated window of time. Once they hatch, these young turkeys do not go into ordinary environments. They are taken to climate-controlled houses, designed to provide thermal comfort and ideal growing conditions. The lighting, the available space, the ventilation, and even the type of flooring directly influence the bird's development. Their feed follows specific formulas, adjusted to encourage breast development without harming their health or creating excess fat. And here, it is worth clearing up a common misconception. Turkeys do not grow to this size because of hormones. In many countries, the use of these substances in commercial poultry farming is banned or strictly controlled. What explains the turkey size is the combination of genetic selection, precise nutrition, and controlled management. It is the same principle used for decades in farming and livestock production, selecting the best individuals and repeating that pattern over time. Throughout the entire raising period, technical teams monitor each flock closely. Average weight, feed intake, daily gain, and behavior are constantly recorded. If any indicator moves outside the expected range, adjustments are made immediately. This continuous monitoring is essential to make sure the turkey reaches the next stage with the size and meat yield the market demands. When the birds reach the ideal age, a new selection takes place. Not every turkey goes into the same product category. Only those that fall within specific ranges of weight, body shape, and white meat proportion move forward. The others may be directed to different cuts or preparations. This ensures that consumers find, year after year, a product that looks consistent and behaves predictably during cooking. This strict control, which begins with the egg and ends on the farm, makes turkey feel almost like a food made to specification. When it goes into the oven, what you see there is the result of years of planning, where small decisions during raising can mean tons of difference in the industry's final outcome. In the next step, we leave the growing stage and enter the most intense part of the process, the slaughter and processing line, where these birds pass through impressive equipment, lose their feathers in seconds, and begin to take on the form you recognize in supermarket freezers and display cases. This is the point where the turkey stops being just a live bird and starts becoming a product consumed in many parts of the world. And before we move into this heavier stage of the industry, take a moment to check if you have already left your like on this video. That simple gesture helps Factories and Facts keep showing the processes that usually stay far from the public eye. When the selected turkeys leave the farms and arrive at the processing facility, the change in environment is immediate. The calm pace of raising gives way to an operation where time and precision control everything. Every movement is synchronized. Every stage has an exact duration, and thousands of birds move along the industrial path as if they were inside one giant machine. There, nothing happens by improvisation. The position of the birds, the temperature, the speed of the conveyors, and the exposure time are all defined to maintain a strict standard. The first phase of this process is humane slaughter, carried out to reduce the animal's stress and preserve the quality of the meat. This care is essential because physiological changes at this moment can affect texture, color, and yield. From there, the flow does not slow down. The turkeys move directly to scalding, where they come into contact with heated water at the right temperature to loosen the feathers without damaging the skin. Even the slightest variation would be enough to compromise the product's final appearance. Next, the defeathering machines come into action, equipped with flexible rubber fingers that spin at high speed. In just a few moments, the feathers are almost completely removed. The visual impact is striking. Many birds pass through the line in a short time, and each one requires small adjustments because of the turkey's larger size compared to smaller poultry. The process has to be efficient without losing delicacy. The next stage is evisceration, considered one of the most critical points of the entire line. Intelligent equipment automatically adjusts the depth and angle of the cut according to the turkey size. It is almost as if each bird receives a custom treatment. Any mistake here can lead to contamination, and when working with enormous volumes per hour, there is no room for failure. That is why operators, inspectors, and electronic systems work together, monitoring everything in real time. After the organs are removed, the carcasses enter an automatic grading system. Sensors evaluate weight, shape, symmetry, and body proportions. Because turkey has a high concentration of meat in the breast, many plants use specific lines to handle that muscular volume. In some facilities, robotic arms reposition the birds so they continue properly aligned toward the next phases of processing. One of the most decisive points comes right after that: pre-chilling. The turkeys pass through chilled water tanks or cold air tunnels that rapidly reduce the internal temperature of the meat. This controlled drop is essential for food safety and also for final quality. Cooling it too fast or unevenly can compromise the texture, leaving the meat firmer after cooking. Few people realize it, but turkey requires its own adjustments at this stage. Because it is larger and heavier than many common birds, the chilling process has to happen in a balanced way between the breast and the limbs. If one part cools before the other, the yield drops. Sensors constantly monitor the entry and exit temperatures, making sure everything stays within the ideal range. Then comes a stage that is almost invisible to the public, but absolutely decisive: inspection through lighting and contrast. The birds pass in front of panels that highlight color differences, marks, or imperfections that would be impossible to notice with the naked eye at that speed. When something falls outside the standard, automatic mechanisms remove the piece from the line immediately. With the turkey now cleaned, chilled, and standardized, the industrial process begins to enter a new phase. From here on, the focus is no longer only structure and safety, but also flavor, aroma, and texture. The characteristics that turn this bird into a special product. And that is what you are about to see now. But before we continue, let me ask you something real quick. Comment below which stage of this industrial line has impressed you the most so far. And also tell us what country, state, or region you are watching Factories and Facts from. Your participation helps the channel keep bringing you industrial processes even more impressive than this one. Now, with the turkey cleaned, chilled, and within industrial standards, the phase begins that turns a raw bird into a product ready to go into the oven. This is where some of the most delicate steps in the entire chain come in: building the flavor, defining the texture, and creating the final standard. Nothing is improvised at this point. Every detail is the result of extremely precise food engineering. The process begins with the preparation of seasoning solutions, liquid blends formulated with water, salt, spices, natural flavors, and components that help preserve the meat's moisture during cooking. Large industrial tanks keep these ingredients in constant motion to make sure every batch receives exactly the same composition. A small deviation in the formula can change the result of thousands of units. These solutions then move into automated injection systems. Rows of needles penetrate the turkey breast at the same time, distributing the seasoning deeply and evenly. The pressure and volume are adjusted according to the size of the bird. This is essential because turkey has dense, bulky muscle fibers that need to be handled correctly to maintain juiciness during cooking. After injection, the turkeys enter a piece of equipment widely used behind the scenes in industrial production. The tumbler, a large rotating cylinder that performs what is known as mechanical massaging. As it turns slowly, the equipment lifts and releases the bird over and over again, allowing the seasoning to bind more effectively to the fibers. Timing here is critical. A few minutes too short reduces absorption. Too much time can compromise the texture. Next comes another controlled chilling stage, responsible for stabilizing the seasoning inside the muscle. Cold air tunnels lower the meat's temperature again, ensuring microbiological safety and preserving the internal structure. This step is fundamental, so the turkey stays tender even after long periods in the oven. With flavor and texture defined, the product moves on to vacuum packaging. High-powered machines remove the oxygen from inside the package and seal it with extreme precision. The absence of air reduces oxidation, extends shelf life, and preserves the sensory characteristics of the food. Optical systems automatically check the integrity of the packaging, rejecting any unit that falls outside the standard. Right after sealing, each turkey goes through an automatic weight check. Sensors make sure the unit matches the value shown on the label. When any piece falls outside the permitted range, the system instantly diverts the product to another route without interfering with the rhythm of the line. Before moving into storage, the batches receive a complete traceability record. Information such as date, shift, production location, and the line used stays linked to that product. This control makes it possible to quickly identify any future issue and is part of modern food safety protocols. Here is a fact that surprises a lot of people. In large-scale industrial plants, the packaging stage can process tens of thousands of turkeys per day, all with nearly identical appearance, weight, and sealing. The level of repetition is so high that it resembles a printing line producing magazines in series. And from here, the process enters its final stretch. Next, we are going to leave the machines behind and follow the turkey's path through cold storage rooms, refrigerated trucks, and the logistics that transform this industrial product into a food served at major meals around the world. With one final curiosity almost nobody knows. After being packaged, weighed, and approved, the turkey moves into enormous cold storage rooms where the temperature is strictly maintained until the moment of distribution. This is where one of the most discreet, and at the same time most critical, stages in the entire industry begins: refrigerated logistics. Climate-controlled trucks travel across highways and distribution centers to deliver the product to grocery stores, wholesalers, and retail chains, maintaining a cold chain that cannot be interrupted at any point along the route. This logistical structure helped turkey become a bird served at major meals around the world. Over time, it went from being a rare or hard-to-find product to taking its place on special tables, thanks to its high white meat yield, impressive appearance, and convenience in the kitchen. Today, in many places, a holiday meal can feel incomplete without a golden turkey coming out of the oven. And here's a little-known curiosity: that characteristic juiciness of turkey does not come only from the seasoning or the cooking method. Industry research shows that the shape and distribution of turkey muscle fibers help retain more moisture when the bird is roasted for long periods. In other words, the bird's own anatomy favors the final result, even when the oven is not set to the perfect temperature. Now tell me, what has been the biggest discovery of this episode for you? The genetic control? The precision of the seasoning? The massive scale of the factories? Or the logistical journey that makes sure everything arrives perfectly at the table? Take this moment to check if you are already subscribed here on Factories and Facts, because every week we reveal behind-the-scenes processes almost nobody gets to see. Always with massive operations, industrial curiosities, and stories that completely change the way you look at everyday products. And if you think you have already seen it all, then you cannot imagine the factory we showed in our last episode. It is already appearing there on your screen. Click it and come with me to discover another hidden secret here on Factories and Facts. A big hug. I will see you there.